Good Friday to you. Hope your weekend is off to a great start. Thanks for joining More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. Browns getting ready to play Monday Night Football against the Baltimore Ravens. They will host them over at First Energy Stadium. The Browns began the week as a 3-point underdog at home to the Ravens. That has dropped to just a point. Some money going the way of the Browns in this one. And the Browns have a chance to do some serious harm to the Ravens' playoff chances. If they can beat the Ravens, it will be an uphill climb for Baltimore to get back into the playoffs again this season. In order to do that, though, the Browns have to get off to a much better start than they did the first time they played Baltimore. The first Browns-Ravens matchup earlier this year started with the Browns shooting themselves in the foot in the first half repeatedly. An interception on the Browns' first possession led to a quick Ravens touchdown. A fake punt on the next series led to a Baltimore field goal. When the Browns scored a touchdown, they missed the point after. For all intents and purposes, the knockout punch was 2 Ravens touchdowns sandwiched around a Browns missed field goal in the final 3 minutes of the first half. It was 24-6 Ravens at the half, 38-6 Ravens final. That was way back in week 1, and it's not something the Browns will dwell on.
We're just trying to be one game better than last week, really, Jeff. I mean, it's hard for me to go all the way back to that week. Obviously, we'll go back and look at the tape because of the opponent, but we're just trying to make subtle improvements each week. And I think this is the time of the season in December when you have to constantly be getting better and you got to be getting stronger, which is why I think the lift work that we got today is as important as anything we're going to do today. So we're just trying to constantly stress to our guys that we got to get better. We have to get stronger throughout the season.
That game week 1 was Lamar Jackson's best game throwing the football of the season by far. Jackson threw for 275 yards, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. The Ravens snapped a 3-game losing streak Tuesday night against the Cowboys. They come into this game against the Browns badly needing a win for their playoff picture. The Browns come into this game having played one of their best games in the last 20 years. And at 9-3, the fans are getting excited about this Browns team, and so are the players.
Being born and raised here, it's huge. You know, everybody's happy, and I've never seen it growing up, and to be a part of it, means so much to me. And definitely want to just, keep rolling, keep winning. It's fun winning, and that's the biggest thing.
Some keys for the Browns in this game: they need to win the turnover battle. They were -2 against the Ravens in that loss to open the season, and they need to be better on third downs, both offensively and defensively. The Browns were awful when they had the football on third downs against the Ravens, and Baltimore converted better than 50% of their third down chances in that week 1 win. Both teams' effective running games could limit possessions in this game, so third down battle will be even more important than usual. Lamar Jackson beat the Browns with his arm in week 1, and he really hasn't been able to do that very often this year. The Ravens may also choose to challenge Baker Mayfield to beat them. Mayfield has risen to those kind of challenges lately. So the Browns get the rematch against the Baltimore Ravens with a national TV audience on Monday Night Football. What do they have to do on both sides of the football to change that result, get a win, and get their 10th win of the season? When we talk Browns, we bring in Dan Labbe, Browns beat reporter from cleveland.com, as well as the Plain Dealer. He's up next. More sports and less Levine. The Weekend Winners Edition. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Presque Isle Downs and Casino has sports betting. Use one of our 50 state-of-the-art Bet America kiosks to place your bet and watch your favorite games on one of our many HD televisions, or visit our sportsbook area. Only at Presque Isle Downs and Casino.
Do you like Ohio State football? Would you like to get information from me, Doug Lesmerises, about Ohio State football without having to look at my face? We have got the plan for you. Become an Ohio State text subscriber through cleveland.com. You send a text, 614-350-3315. What do you get? 2, 3, 4 texts right in your phone every day about Ohio State football. Inside information, polls, voting, all kinds of things. You can be on our podcast. We take text subscriber questions on our Buckeye Talk podcast every week. If you really want to be involved with Ohio State football, in season or out of season, become an Ohio State text subscriber from cleveland.com. Send a text to 614-350-3315. 14-day free trial. What do you have to lose? $3.99 a month after that. 614-350-3315. I'll see you in your phone.
Tri-C is here for you. Now more than ever, you need a post-secondary education. So I encourage you to start your journey here at Tri-C. The majority of fall classes will take place online, but we've added a variety of formats to meet your learning needs, and we've taken many steps to keep you safe on campus. Whether you're ready to get started or your four-year plans have changed, Tri-C is where futures begin.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program recognizes role model students and teachers from across Ohio. Nominations can now be done completely online. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Partners in Education. There you will find links to the nomination forms. Students kindergarten through 12th grade can be academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as a Teacher of the Month. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. More sports and less Levine. The weekend winners edition continues. I'm Dave Bacon. We continue to talk Browns, Ravens as they get ready to kick it off at First Energy Stadium here in Cleveland on Monday Night Football. Whenever we talk Browns, we welcome in Browns beat reporter for cleveland.com as well as the pages of the Plain Dealer, Dan Labbe. Dan, I appreciate it. Let's start on the offensive side of the ball. How about Baker Mayfield? Boy, that I'm not sure I expected that, but what about that, and what does it say about the progression of Baker Mayfield this season?
I mean, that had to be the best game that he's played all season. Maybe you could make the case the best game he's played in a Browns uniform. Certainly the best half of football he's played in a Browns uniform. So I think it just shows he's getting more and more comfortable in the offense. And the thing that it was to me was a little step forward for him as far as he spent all of November, and of course there was bad weather and all of that, but he spent a lot of November kind of taking care of the football and just managing what they wanted to do. And then on Sunday, and open it up a little bit. He was more aggressive. He took advantage of the throws that were there. Kevin Stefanski schemed up a great game, and Baker Mayfield went out there and made all the throws that he was being asked to make. It looked a lot more like that rookie year Baker Mayfield than we've seen really ever since.
And really, Donovan Peoples-Jones drops what could have been another touchdown pass, and that was right on the money. That was arguably the most important game this franchise has played in 20 years. And I think that says a little bit about what you're looking for in a quarterback, that he responded in such a manner.
Right, and they came out, and instead of leaning on the run game, they decided to lean on Baker Mayfield and the pass game. So it tells you that this is a guy, and I think we've always sort of known this about Baker, that he's going to respond in tough situations, and he's not going to let criticism get to him. And when this team needs him to step up, he does. And now he gets to turn around and play, I guess maybe the next biggest game in the last few years for this franchise. But that was a game with real playoff implications. That's a team that wants to win the AFC South. That's a team that plays offense a lot like the Browns play offense, and the Browns just went in there and knocked them out early.
When you look at what the game plan was, clearly, Kevin Stefanski said, "Here you go, Baker. We're letting you throw the football." It hadn't done that really up until this point where he came out doing that. Is that something you just kind of put out there and say, if you guys want to try to take away our run game, we can still do this?
It is good to put that stuff on tape and to show that, hey, you've got to respect Donovan Peoples-Jones down the field, and you've got to respect what Rashard Higgins can do in the receiving corps. But honestly, I think what it really tells you is this coaching staff isn't going to be pigeonholed. They aren't going to say, well, we're a running team, so we just go run the football. They're going to look at the opponent. They're going to see what they can take advantage of, and they're going to go out there and take advantage of it. And in the case of Tennessee, you had a team that doesn't have a very good pass rush, a team that doesn't have a very good pass defense. And so they went and they attacked that team through the air. They knew they could get whatever they wanted. This looked like, Baker Mayfield and Lincoln Riley back in the Oklahoma days. Just great protection, guys getting schemed open, and Baker making the throws. I think that's really the big takeaway here is this coaching staff looked at the matchup and they exploited it. They didn't just, pound their head against the wall and say, this is how we play football, so we're going to stick with it. They did what worked against the Tennessee Titans. Now they'll turn around and do what works against the Baltimore Ravens, and that's really how they approach this thing week to week.
And that is, it sounds really basic, but we really haven't seen that. I mean, the play calling, the game planning, the scheming has differed from week to week, and if you sit and watch and are paying attention, it makes sense. That's kind of refreshing for Browns football, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is a coaching staff and a head coach that I don't think we've looked across at that sideline at any point this season and said, oh boy, this guy doesn't belong out there, or this guy's getting out coached or outsmarted. That doesn't mean that he's been perfect, because there's no such thing as perfection. But you've always felt like Kevin Stefanski had his finger on the pulse. If the team started slow or if he started slow as a play caller, it changed over the course of the game. And we just keep seeing a head coach that has a really good grasp of how to put his guys in the best position to succeed based on that week's matchup, not just based on what they want to do over 17 weeks.
Let's talk a little bit about Rashard Higgins, a guy that, has kind of reappeared again, and seems every time he's on the field, he has something a little extra with Baker Mayfield. You hear the Browns are starting to explore extension talks. Does that surprise you? Are you surprised by anything that you've seen from Higgins, or is this kind of what you thought, given the opportunity, he would do?
I'm a little surprised. I think last year was sort of a wash. He ended up in Freddie Kitchens' doghouse, and Freddie was just not going to let him out. But even early this year, Rashard Higgins was not in the plans. He barely played in the first game against Baltimore. When he did, it was in garbage time. He was inactive for a few weeks. And then he finally gets on the field and starts to make plays and starts to get more and more opportunities. So, even this coaching staff, I think, kind of looked at Rashard Higgins as like, okay, we could maybe do better. Put Kadarius Hodge out there. He's a little faster, maybe a little better blocker. Try some other things. But now Rashard Higgins, again, has just taken advantage of this opportunity. And it looks like this time it's going to be able to stick. And to hear that the Browns are maybe looking at an extension with him, that's great news, because I don't think it's going to be some huge money extension, but you can lock up a guy that your quarterback trusts, that you can count on if you need to send him out there and get a few more years out of him.
And really, Higgins appears to be one of those guys, and obviously we don't see everything that goes on in practice, but some guys, when it's game time, they just kind of turn it up a couple notches and find a way to do things. And it really seems like that might be one of the guys that Higgins is, which if you can have a guy like that as your number 3 receiver, it's a pretty nice luxury.
Yeah, and he understands how to play with Baker. I think in some ways, Baker might be a tough quarterback to play with sometimes because, look, when he's on time and he's on schedule, that's not that hard. But it's when he starts to create a little bit out of the pocket. He's looking to throw the football, but looking to scramble like other mobile quarterbacks, because that's not his strength. When he gets out of the pocket, he's looking to throw his height. There's going to be situations where he's just got to get out of the pocket to see what's out there in front of him. And so when you have a guy like Higgins who just knows where to go, that throw to Higgins down to the 1-yard line early in the football game was a prime example of it. Jarvis Landry's another guy who really just understands how to get where he needs to get to when Baker starts to move out of the pocket. When you have guys like that, it makes all that off-schedule stuff work, and that's what can be really confounding to a defense.
Now, Wyatt Teller, who's played so well, is on the COVID reserve list, close contact tracing, which means there is still a possibility he would be available for the game on Monday night. Have you heard any updates on that? And how big of a loss would Wyatt Teller be if he cannot go?
It would be big, but I do think the Browns could get by without Teller. They were able to do it earlier this year. Now, they didn't have Nick Chubb in those games either. Those guys kind of missed those games simultaneously. But, I think you can put a guy in there, whether it's Chris Hubbard or Nick Harris or someone else who isn't going to be Wyatt Teller, but he'll be able to give you what you need, especially because you have Nick Chubb and you have Kareem Hunt. You're going to be able to run the football a little bit, but losing Wyatt Teller would hurt. I don't think they're going to be without him. Kevin Stefanski on Thursday said that he was pretty confident that Wyatt Teller would be out there. It is good news that it was just a close contact thing, that there wasn't a positive test. There weren't with like symptoms like we saw with Myles Garrett. So, I think fans should feel pretty good about seeing Wyatt Teller out there. But it's worth keeping an eye on and monitoring as we kind of work towards Monday.
So as the Browns sit at 9-3, Ravens are 7-5. How important is this game for the Baltimore Ravens coming in here who thought they were going to be fighting for a potential top spot in the AFC conference and that bye? And right now they're on the outside looking into the wild card picture even.
It is backs to the wall for the Baltimore Ravens. But the way they've got to look at it is if they win this game, they've got Jacksonville, the Giants, and the Bengals coming up. So they've got a really favorable schedule after this football game. But this is still a game that they've got to go win because if the Browns win this game, it essentially means that, they're going to get to 11 wins. The Ravens, on the other hand, if they lose this game, they're going to be in some trouble even with that easy schedule. So really of these two teams, and I know this is weird to say for Browns fans probably, of these two teams, if the Browns lose this game, okay, they lose this game. It doesn't end anything. It doesn't mean they can't make the playoffs. It doesn't mean they can't get where they want to get to. But the Ravens, if they lose this game, now all that stuff that's laid out in front of them with that easy schedule to end the season, it gets even a little more harder.
Yeah, and the flip side of it is if you're the Browns, you really want to make that uphill climb for a division rival like the Ravens. You have a chance to put a hurting on them, you want to do it, especially given what happened back in week 1 when it was 38-6 Ravens.
Yeah, exactly. For the Browns, this is a chance. And, I don't know how much this outside perception matters to the guys in that building, but I always think it matters more than they say. You're going to be on national TV against the Baltimore Ravens. Everybody's going to be watching this game. If you lose by 30 points, it's going to be same old Browns on Tuesday. If you go out there and beat the Ravens, it's going to be okay. The Browns have arrived. They're legitimate. They can do some real damage in the playoffs. And I do think that perception matters a little bit.
Dan Labbe, Browns beat reporter here on cleveland.com, as well as in the pages of the Plain Dealer. Dan and I have to take a quick time out. When we return, we flip things. We'll talk Browns defense, Ravens offense as we count down towards that Monday night game here in Cleveland, Browns and Ravens. It's more sports and Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. Stay with us.
Transform your home for the holidays with an authentic Nature Stone garage floor. No more tripping on cracked, uneven concrete. Stop slipping on puddles and standing water. It's the safer, more beautiful garage floor that's easy to clean and never needs replaced. That's why it's backed by Russell's Promise. For a limited time, get more Nature Stone than ever before with up to half your garage floor free. Schedule your free cost estimate easily online today at naturestone.com to qualify for your free flooring. It's not just a floor.
Wow, it's Nature Stone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget. Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a line. A long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just the mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Welcome back to More Sports and Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. Ravens favored by a point against the Browns here in Cleveland, but that is down from a 3-point favorite that the Ravens were at the beginning of the week. So that means the money's starting to come in on the Browns. Let's welcome Dan Labbe, Browns beat reporter here at cleveland.com, as well as on the pages of the Plain Dealer. Back in, Dan. Let's flip sides. The defense. Denzel Ward has been banged up, missed a few games. What's the latest on Denzel?
Well, it's a little surprising, but it sounds like Denzel might have a chance to play on Monday. We don't know how big of a chance. I think we'll have a better idea of that probably on Saturday. Of course, this is one of those weird weeks in the NFL where Saturday is actually what would normally be a Friday, so we'll get our status updates then. But there's a chance that Ward could go, and of course, that would be big for this team, not just in the passing game, but I'm of the belief that when you go against Lamar Jackson and these runners, you want to have as many of your elite athletes on the field as you can, and Denzel Ward certainly checks that box.
Well, so Ravens got Lamar Jackson back Tuesday night against the Cowboys. He came off the COVID list and was able to play and ran all over the place, but everybody runs on the Cowboys. Ravens also are now due to get Mark Andrews back. They're a really good tight end. How big of a concern is that if you are the Browns? Because that's kind of the main threat for Lamar Jackson in the air.
Yeah, there's something about the Ravens. Just no matter who's at quarterback, they love their tight ends. And Lamar Jackson especially really likes to use those tight ends. We know the Browns have struggled against tight ends probably going back to 1999. They've been a little bit better this year. But look, Mark Andrews is the guy that you'd rather play the Ravens without him than with him. So having him back is going to be a nice little safety blanket for Lamar Jackson in the passing game. And it just means the Browns linebackers have to be a little more occupied with someone. And, you want to be strong at linebacker when you play Lamar Jackson. You want to have those guys being able to be focused on what Lamar is doing and what they're doing with read options and things like that. But if somebody has to worry about Mark Andrews, it makes that a little more difficult.
When you look at the Browns defense, who helps shut down that running game with Jackson and Ingram and Johnson? You just keep going on, Dobbins and Edwards. So who is a guy that, the Browns are going to need to play well if they want to beat the Ravens and not let them run all over the place like they did on Tuesday?
No, this is a game where you would love to have had, Grant Delpit or Ronnie Harrison or, one of those versatile safeties who can come up and make plays and play in the box. I don't know if Carl Joseph can do that, but he's a guy that they really need to be able to play well. This is a weird one because obviously you expect this guy to play well, right? He's a defensive player of the year candidate, but this is one of those games where Myles Garrett can impact the game necessarily without putting up stats. Look, he could come away with a sack or two or something like that, but this is a game where having an athlete like Myles Garrett at defensive end, who we saw him chase down Deshaun Watson back when Houston was here. Having that guy running all over the field and having him a little bit closer to 100%. He admitted he was a little gassed on Sunday in Tennessee. So having him with a little extra rest, a little bit healthier, I think that's really the key here is again, just having those athletes that can chase around Lamar Jackson, and Myles Garrett is really that athlete for you on the defensive side.
When you look at what the Browns did well in that win against the Titans and something they didn't do well week one against the Ravens, turnover battle. They had a couple of early turnovers against the Titans. They turned the ball over a couple times early against the Ravens that really helped that game get away. How big is that? We always say it's big, but especially when you have teams that run the ball, you figure in possessions could be limited. Does that magnify that turnover battle that's always going on?
Yeah, this is a real boom or bust defense. They aren't a defense that's going to shut you down. They need to have big plays and big moments like they did against Tennessee so you get a fourth down stop, or they need to force turnovers. So on the next drive, you strip Derrick Henry, his first fumble of the season. So this defense isn't a defense that is traditionally going to line up and just stop you, and you're not going to be able to move the ball against them. We saw Tennessee in the second half got the ball moving, but then they got some timely turnovers, got some timely stops, and prevented that comeback from being completed. So turnovers are really the thing that matter with this defense. So when Lamar Jackson gives you an opportunity, you've got to go out there and grab it.
And really, last 5 games, Jackson has not played particularly well. 7 touchdowns, 5 picks, less than 200 yards in average per game. They threw the ball. The Ravens threw the ball all over the Browns. I was a little bit surprised by that week 1. Do you expect them to do that again? I don't think if I'm John Harbaugh, that's just not who they are, I don't think.
Yeah, I would be surprised if we saw a passing attack like what we saw in that first week. I think the Ravens are going to attack this team the way the Ravens attack a lot of teams, and that's going to be on the ground. That's going to be trying to get Lamar Jackson free for some of those big runs. And it's why the Browns on that defensive line need to be able to hem him in. If you go back to that Ravens-Kansas City game, way back, one of the things the Chiefs did really well was they really kind of hemmed Lamar Jackson into the pocket, so he wasn't able to escape as much. And when he did have to throw, he had to throw from the pocket. He wasn't able to create outside of the pocket, which is where him and his receivers, him and his tight ends really have a stronger connection. So, I don't think the Ravens are going to attack this team through the air. I think they're going to see what they can do on the ground, because now I know that Derrick Henry didn't light this team up, but the Browns aren't that far removed from, having Jacksonville be able to run the ball successfully against them, from having, even a guy like Duke Johnson put together some good runs against them in that Houston game. Miles Sanders was actually running the ball well against Philadelphia. So I think the Ravens are going to try and attack that soft spot in the Browns defense.
The thinking about the Ravens is get up on them early and force them to not be able to be patient and run the ball. Do you buy into that? Is that something? I mean, it's been proven out. Is that kind of what the method to beat them has been?
Yeah, I mean, until they prove they can do it, then yeah, that's absolutely who they are. And you could make the case that maybe that's the formula for the Browns too, is try to go up on the Browns and take away that ability for them to run the ball and maybe not have to worry so much about that play action passing. So, it would not shock me if the Browns came out in this game and maybe were aggressive again and tried to build that early lead on the Ravens. I don't think they'll be quite as aggressive throwing the ball as they were against Tennessee, because the Ravens create a little more pressure, a little stronger in the back end of that defense than the Titans are. So, I don't think the Browns will be slinging the ball all over the place, but it wouldn't surprise me if Kevin Stefanski says, look, we got to come out and get that 10-point lead, get a 14-point lead, and make the Ravens come back on it.
All right, we've come to that point in the show. 1-point underdog are the Browns at home. That is down from 3. The line began with the Ravens favored by 3. A lot of people might have seen him play Tuesday against the Cowboys and said, yikes, and it is down to 1. So just some thoughts. How do you see this game unfolding?
This is such a tough game to pick, because the Ravens do have their backs against the wall, and they have to win this game. The Browns have kind of been cruising along, and at some point you expect them to trip up, but it just hasn't happened. So, I'll be honest, I said this to somebody earlier this week. I'm kind of tired of being wrong when I pick against the Browns. So I think, look, the Browns should be able at home to figure this football team out and win this game. And at some point you have to be able to make that statement against an AFC North team, and besides Cincinnati, and prove that you've arrived and prove that you belong in the same class as Pittsburgh and Baltimore. So what better time to do it than on Monday Night Football against the Ravens, when the Ravens have played 3 games, and I don't remember the exact number of days, but they played a lot of football games in not very many days.
Yeah, and again, people give me grief about this. As long as they don't turn the football over, I think the Browns win the football game. And by that, I mean, if they don't lose the turnover battle, if they don't give the Ravens short fields like they did week 1, that's what happened week 1. They gave the Ravens a couple of short fields. They missed a field goal. They missed an extra point. Ravens scored late in the first half, and the game was over by halftime. As long as they don't have the self-inflicted wounds, I think the Browns can win, and I think they can win between, a field goal and a touchdown.
Right, and don't forget, the Browns were driving and still in that game before that missed field goal, and Odell Beckham had a 3rd down drop. So that was still a football game really late into the first half before Baltimore kind of blew it open.
Dan Labbe, beat reporter for the Browns here on cleveland.com, as well as in the pages of the Plain Dealer. As always, we appreciate the time and the insight. I am sure we'll be seeing you again next week. Thanks, Dan.
Yep, thanks for having me.
All right, again, that's Dan Labbe as we were talking Browns-Ravens kickoff. Monday Night Football from First Energy Stadium. Monday, Les Levine will be back in the chair. We'll be with you from 6 to 7 to talk about it. But right now, we are done for More Sports and Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. Stay safe, everybody, and we will see you Monday night.